Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Stephen Interviews You, where I, Stephen Vitt, sit down and have a good chat with a special guest. This is episode number 6. And to introduce himself,
Yeah, well, thank you, Stephen, for having me on, man. It's an honor to be on here with you. And my name is Justin Couz Walker. Uh, I run a YouTube channel called Couz's Corner over on YouTube, where I talk college football, primarily around West Virginia Mountaineers and Big 12 conference realignment, those types of things. I'm a massive West Virginia fan, if you can't tell. And I'm born and raised right here in the great state of West by God, Virginia. I've lived here my whole life, and it's a pleasure to be on with Stephen today.
uh, nice to have you on, Justin. And so let's just get right to it. Um, Couz's Corner, your
Mhm.
YouTube channel. Um, and just as a lead into this, your channel was one of the channels that actually helped inspire me to start my own series called Bobcat Corner, as
Awesome.
you could tell. So, with your channel, Couz's Corner, what inspired you to start making your own YouTube videos?
Uh, I had kicked around the idea in my head for a while of doing a podcast, right? An audio only podcast, and didn't really know how to go about getting it started. And back in, I don't know, 2021 or so, right after Oklahoma and Texas announced they were leaving the Big 12, I was scrolling through YouTube videos, trying to learn more about it and, listen to different people's opinions. And I ran across this guy named Golden Blue Dude, who most of you probably remember. God rest his soul. He's left us way too soon. But he was a huge West Virginia fan and was covering conference realignment, and I really liked what he was doing, and thought, man, if I think I can do this. And I'd been kicking around the idea. I talked to a close friend of mine who had done some YouTube stuff, and he encouraged me to go ahead and get started. And instead of doing the podcast route, I decided to go the YouTube route, which I'm doing both now. But YouTube was much easier to get started, and so I decided to go ahead and pull the trigger on it. And 3.5 years later, almost 4 years actually, I'm still kicking it.
That's great. And also about Golden Blue Dude. Yeah, he was also another inspiration of mine. When I first started searching up college football, college sports related videos, his videos were some of the first that popped up when I
Mhm.
searched. So that also inspired me to do what I do now with my channel.
Yeah.
So, continuing on with West Virginia Mountaineers, West Virginia University, you're a big fan of West Virginia football and sports in general. You are a West Virginia Mountaineers fan. What are some of your favorite memories of West Virginia sports?
Gosh, man, there's a bunch. I mean, just off the top of my head, I think about the Big East championship and Final Four run in 2010 in basketball with Bob Huggins and that crew with Jadashawn Butler and Joe Mazzulla, who's now the head coach of the Celtics. I think about the improbable run by the basketball team in under John Beeline when they beat, I think it was Wake Forest in the NCAA tournament to advance to the Sweet 16, and they were a team that had kind of come out of nowhere. Um, then when in football, I mean the Louisville game back in 2005, when Pat White first burst onto the scene, West Virginia came from behind. They were down 24-7 in the third quarter, maybe even early fourth quarter. Can't remember the exact timing of that, but nonetheless, I was actually at that game with my dad. We were thinking about leaving at one time. Adam Bednarik gets hurt. Pat White comes in the game. West Virginia comes back, wins the game in triple overtime. The Pat White, Steve Slayton era is born in Morgantown. That's a great memory. Uh, those are just the ones off the top of my head that, uh, you know, I could go on for 30 minutes, but I'll leave. I'll just stick to those.
Yeah. So you mentioned those Mountaineer teams in football with Pat White and Steve
Mm-hmm.
Slayton and those guys. Those were some of my favorite teams, not related to my Ohio Bobcats. Those were some of my favorite teams to watch when I was growing up in the
Mm-hmm.
2000s. So good times
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. And
So
I mean, like I said, there are a bunch more. I just don't want to sit here and take the whole
yeah,
show talking about that one topic.
yeah, it's all right. Yeah. So with West Virginia football, um, a well-known name has been coaching there and is back again as the head coach, Rich Rodriguez.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what are your thoughts, if you could sum it up in a nutshell, what are your thoughts on Rich Rodriguez and his impact on West Virginia University?
Wow. that's a hard one. I think the last time I'm going to kind of go in eras here. The first time he was at West Virginia, he really put Don Neyland kind of put West Virginia football on the map. But Rich Rodriguez, I think, took it to another level. I mean, they had 3 consecutive double-digit win seasons. I think it's the only time they'd ever done that. Obviously, the Pat White era that I mentioned, he oversaw that. And it really had West Virginia University. They were on national television every single week. They were exciting to watch, and it really put a lot of eyeballs on not only the football team, but the whole school and the whole state, to be honest with you. And it really was a great time to be a Mountaineer fan because we felt like we belonged in the same conversation with the big boys, you know what I mean, with the blue bloods of the country. And obviously when he left, all that kind of got, it was like somebody kicked you in the gut, man, and all that went away. And then now that he's back, though, for nostalgia reasons, it almost makes us feel like we're kind of reliving that again, reliving those days again. And there's obviously the desire to get back to that. And there's a hope that we will. But me, as a guy who sometimes sees the glass half empty, whether for good or better or worse, I'm cautiously optimistic because I just, it's going to be hard to repeat that again, especially in today's era with the transfer portal and NIL. And now that we're in the Big 12, it's a much tougher conference than back, in that 2007 year when they almost made it to the national championship. So, yeah, I mean, I'm cautiously optimistic, but there's excitement again brewing around West Virginia football, which means what? There's excitement around West Virginia University because we all know that football and men's basketball, and to some degree baseball, I guess, is kind of the front porch to a university. And that's where you get your marketing and your notoriety. And so it's good. It's good to have some of that back. Obviously, the Pat McAfee show helps with that too. Him being a huge mouthpiece for the Mountaineers. So yeah, it's kind of like reliving the good old days, but yet somehow hoping we can relive it again for real on the field.
Yeah, so about Rich Rodriguez last year at the Cure Bowl, my Ohio Bobcats, they were originally
Mm-hmm.
supposed to face a Rich Rodriguez coach team in Jacksonville State, but of course that happened where he moved back to West Virginia. So the Bobcats are going to be facing the Mountaineers here this upcoming
Yep.
season. You're actually going to see Rich Rodriguez.
Yep.
So that's going to be interesting. But sticking with the West Virginia Mountaineers, you mentioned the Big 12 conference. Um, Ever since West Virginia made that move to the Big 12 conference, um, what are your thoughts on the Big 12 as a whole, where it's going
Mm-hmm.
and how it's been for West Virginia?
Well, I think it's been great for West Virginia in a lot of ways. I mean, when the Big East was collapsing from the football side back, I guess it was mid to late 2000s. West Virginia didn't have a home. I mean, they got turned down by the ACC, they got turned down by the SEC, and the Big 12 embraced them. And I think because of that, West Virginia's always been, or at least most fans, I think, have been appreciative of that and have admired the Big 12. And we also fit culturally. I mean, when you look at the schools, Iowa State, Kansas State, Kansas, Oklahoma State, just to name a few, I feel like West Virginia fits in well culturally with those schools, from and demographically as well. So I think it's a good fit there. Being the geographic outlier for so long though was tough. I think it hurt recruiting. I think it may have even impacted fan passion to a degree. I mean, I don't think fans were excited about playing those teams versus playing Pitt, Virginia Tech, Syracuse, the teams that they were so accustomed to playing year in, year out, and that fans could travel to games, right, to see. So yeah, but overall, I think the Big 12 has been good for West Virginia. I just, as far as where it's going, I'm a little bit nervous about that. We don't know what the future is going to hold for the ACC and the Big 12. It looks like the SEC and Big Ten are kind of separating themselves from everybody else. So that's a little bit concerning. And with West Virginia being a small market team in a small state, there is a little part of me that's a little bit concerned about their future, to be honest.
Yeah, so about being able to compete in college football, this was definitely a question I was going to ask. Do you believe that West Virginia can compete on the biggest stages of college football on a consistent basis?
I mean, I think I think they can compete. I think they can get back to competing the way they once did, winning 8, 9 games a year. Excuse me. Yeah, I think they can get back to competing winning 8 to 9 games a year like they once did. Obviously, that hasn't happened under Neil Brown, or didn't happen under Neil Brown, unfortunately. But uh, I think they can, yes, because I think Rich Rod has the. I think he's the coach who can do that. He's coached at all different levels of football, so he knows what it takes to win at that level. And I think that Ren Baker being the AD is a good thing as well. I think he knows how to fundraise. I think he knows how to bring in revenue, and I think he's going to know what it takes to compete as well. So yeah, I think West Virginia can get back to competing again, as long as the conference and that they're in and all that can stay intact and stay competitive as well.
So you mentioned previously that with the way things are going, with everything involving new stuff like the NIL and transfer portal, and we just had the House settlement be approved
Mm-hmm.
the other day. Um, where do you see college football and college sports in general going? And this is like a broad question, but where do you
Mm-hmm.
see it going, like within like say 5 to 10 years from now?
It's a hard question. I honestly don't have any idea, man. I could see it anywhere from being, remaining at 4 power conferences, like we are now, or I could see it going, maybe the ACC dissolving, Big 12 taking some of those teams, SEC and Big 10 taking some of those teams, and getting down to 3 power conferences of like 72 teams total, or 70 teams, whatever it would be. I could see that potentially happening. Uh, I could even see a Super League model forming where everybody kind of combines under one umbrella. I think that's less likely, but I could definitely see it going either. I could definitely see it going to 3 power leagues at some point in the future if the ACC can't get their stuff together.
So following up on that, um, what are your thoughts really on specifically just the NIL, how it's being handled right now, and with especially with going forward with using Deloitte Clearinghouse
Mm-hmm.
and things like that? How do you see that playing out?
I'm optimistic that it's going to improve. I don't think you're ever going to get it totally under control. I mean, we even back when the NCAA was kind of had stringent rules. You still had bag men out here handing people paper bags, and no, I don't think you're ever going to totally get away from that stuff. I just don't think it's possible in such a competitive environment. But I am optimistic that the Deloitte Clearinghouse will help rein in some of the crazy, crazy spending that some of these boosters were doing. And hopefully we can get a little bit more on a level playing field. Again, it'll never be 100% level playing field. It never has been. The Ohio States, the Notre Dames, they've all, the Texases, the Alabamas, they've always had more resources than some of the other schools. That's not going to change. But I do think it'll help get it back on somewhat of a level playing field and put some sort of guardrails around NIL where teams aren't just outspending everybody willy nilly as they please. Meaning from a booster perspective.
Yeah, it's definitely like a wait and see kind of a
Yeah,
thing.
for
So
sure.
so sticking to college football and where it's headed, obviously another hot topic would be the college football playoff and all these proposed models. Um, Generally speaking, uh, how do you see the college football playoff format taking shape? Whether whether it is with the 4-4-2-2-1-3 or just 5-11,
Mm-hmm.
whatever that ends up being, how do you see that just shaping up?
Yeah, I think the momentum right now appears to be for the 5-11 model. I haven't really wrapped my head around whether I like it or don't. Um, my gut instinct was that that's the best way to move forward for the betterment of college football, but I'm not sure it's the best for the Big 12 conference because it's just going to be tough for the Big 12 to get more than one team in most years, I believe, in that model. But it does seem like that model has some legs and has some momentum. So my prediction is that we land at a 5+11 college football playoff model for the next few years, or 26 to 2030, 2031, I think it is when the contract runs out.
Yeah,
But I wouldn't rule out the 4-4-2-2-1-3 either. I think that's still an option on the table.
yeah. I've been ever since these talks about models have really started. I've always been of the opinion that it doesn't really matter which model we go with, because either way, it's going to end up the
Mhm.
same way. The Big Ten, the
Yeah.
SEC are just going to get what they're going to get.
Yep. I
It's just a
agree.
matter of how they do it. So.
I agree. I think the SEC has a chance to benefit more from the 5+11 than anybody else. Because even in a 4-4-2-2-1-3, they're guaranteed 4 spots. And then when you look at the 3 at-larges, they could get one of those, but they may not either. I mean, and they may only get one of those 3 because Notre Dame may get one, they get one, maybe the Big Ten gets one. Whereas in a 5+11, there's a lot of years they may get 6 or even 7 teams in the playoff. So, uh, but on the other hand, they're still playing 8 conference games. The Big Ten is not going to sit down and just allow them to go to a 5-11 model when they're playing 9 conference games and the SEC is only playing 8, because you basically have a free win on the schedule for the SEC in their eyes, right? So that's going to help them get more spots. So the Big Ten's likely not going to just accept the 5-11 model without some tweaks to the SEC scheduling. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But you're right. Either way, the Big 12, the ACC, and the G5s are going to be limited to what they can get. We're living in a Big Ten and SEC world now, and we just got to deal with it. That's only thing I know.
So you mentioned just now the G6
Mm-hmm.
conferences, which of course I support because I support the Ohio Bobcats are in the Mid-American Conference.
Right.
Um, and speaking of the college football playoff, do you think it is still a good idea, even today, to allow the G6 conferences to have access in general to the college football playoff?
I do. Yeah, I think they deserve a shot. I mean, we've seen over the years, how many times have we seen Boise State, Appalachian State, Old Dominion? I mean, just go down the list. We've seen so many occasions where FCS team, or I'm sorry, G5 teams have upset uh, Power 4 teams. And heck, we've even seen FCS teams pull upsets, right, every year. So I do think they deserve a shot. Um, I don't know. I don't know what the perfect answer is. I mean, I think Boise, you look at teams like Boise State, for example. I think they've proven year in, year out that they can compete with just about anybody. I mean, they only lost to Oregon by 1 a year ago, right? So, I mean, why not give them a shot? I think they deserve a shot. Now, do they deserve more than one bid? That's a debate, but I do think they deserve at least one. Yes.
Yeah. And, talking about Boise State, they have basically set the model. They've set the foundation for what a G6
Mm-hmm.
conference team should be competing at, that how they should be playing on that kind of level. And
Right.
that's what I'm hoping a team like mine, the Ohio Bobcats, can eventually, years down the road, eventually just get to. So, and there might be some years where G6 conference teams might be more than one that would play very well, well above their well above their supposed level, and they might warrant a second bid for the college football playoff. It might happen that way,
Oh,
but
it could happen. There,
yeah,
there have been a few years where I think, look, I don't remember the years, but there was a couple of years where the G6 at that time of G5 could have potentially gotten 2 teams in a 16-team playoff. It's rare, but it does happen. I mean, Boise State, back in before Cincinnati got into the Big 12, they were, they obviously got into college football playoff as a G5. So and not they didn't look. A lot of people talk about how they got blown out by Alabama, but Alabama also blew out Notre Dame and Oklahoma, and or I don't know if it was Oklahoma, but they blew out multiple teams in the playoffs back then. And Cincinnati competed against them just as good as anybody else did. So I never thought that was a fair argument, but yeah, I mean, I think the G5 there will be some years where uh, the potential is there to get more than one team in, but as long as the Big Ten and SEC get all the, whether it's deserved or not, get all the attention and all the notoriety, it's going to be tough.
yeah. So next question I've been wanting to ask since uh, the teams that we support, they're going to be playing each other in September,
Mm-hmm.
early September. This will be like the second game for the Ohio Bobcats, and it's going to be actually at Athens, Ohio,
Right.
between the Ohio Bobcats hosting the West Virginia Mountaineers. So, what what are your thoughts on that game, on that matchup?
The positives, obviously, it's pretty close. Athens is not that far from Morgantown, so it's going to, it's a road trip that's easy. When you got a team that has to travel across 2 to 3 time zones for most of their away games, it's refreshing to have one that's not that far away. Um, Ren Baker has been adamant that he doesn't love the idea of playing G6s on the road because it costed school money. They would love to have that additional home game on the schedule. But that being said, Ohio's coming to West Virginia for 2 years, so that should offset the 1 year, right? So I think it's fair. Um, but from a strict financial perspective, I'm not sure how it benefits West Virginia to have them on as a road game. To be honest, but again, uh, it is what it is, and you do see like Oklahoma State plays at Tulsa a lot. So it's not like it's that we've seen Virginia Tech play at Old Dominion. It's not super uncommon for that to happen. Um, but I know West Virginia in the past has not typically scheduled that way, but they did this time. Just it was a Shane Lyons decision. I'm not sure what his reasoning was. I'm assuming because it was a 2-for-1, and Ohio is a huge recruiting area for West Virginia too, so there could be some benefit there. Uh, Getting to play in front of some of your Ohio guys you're looking at in recruiting. So I see some positives to it as well. Just I don't know that it makes financial sense for West Virginia to do it, but there are some other advantages: the travel and the recruiting piece, notably.
Yeah, I do see definitely from a recruiting standpoint how it would benefit West Virginia to make these kinds of trips, especially to Athens, Ohio, because of course it's not far from Morgantown, West Virginia.
Right.
So when you can like plant your flag, so to speak, in that area of Ohio and probably get recruits to come to West Virginia to play for the Mountaineers, uh, there has to be benefits to it. So
Yeah. Yep.
and
And let's be honest. I mean, Ohio's probably going to be I mean, I don't know what you guys have coming back, but it could be a good team. And you don't want to be that one team that gets upset by a G6 team, right? Uh, and by playing that game on the road makes that even more of a risk.
right. So yeah, I'm trying to stay at least a little bit optimistic about the game be between Ohio and West Virginia. Although I'm hearing what everybody else is saying that West Virginia obviously has most of the advantages going into that game. And yes, Ohio has lost quite a few players, especially on the defensive side of the ball. Um, so it's just again, it's a wait and see kind of thing.
Mhm.
And I keep thinking about, in particular, the game last year between Northern Illinois and Notre Dame. Now, I'm
Yeah.
not trying to compare the games together, but
Yeah.
nobody had that on their bingo card. Northern
Nope.
Illinois beating Notre Dame.
Marshall beat Notre Dame a couple of years ago too. Nobody had that on their bingo card either.
No, so anything can happen.
Yep.
That's the approach that I gotta take. So
And the Ohio players are going to be excited for that game. It's a chance for those guys to prove themselves, to prove that they can compete with the Power Four at the Power Four level or with the Power Four players. So they're going to have a chip on their shoulder, and that's a scary thing for a team like for any Power Four team really coming into that type of environment.
yeah. So it's a good opportunity. It's a good opportunity for the Bobcats to show what
Mm-hmm.
they can do. And it's a game I do think they will at least try to get up for. So because obviously the next game after that is traveling up to Columbus to face the Ohio State Buckeyes, and don't get me started about that. So, yeah,
Wow, yeah, you guys got
yeah,
a tough schedule.
oh yeah, we have a
Wow,
really tough gauntlet started. We're gonna start the season at Rutgers, Piscataway, New
do y'all play
Jersey,
3 Power 4 teams in your non-conference?
in a row. Yes, yeah,
Oh my gosh.
yeah, Rutgers. Then we come back home at least to play West Virginia. Then we got to go back on the road to Columbus to face Ohio State. Yeah, so. So it's just like I said, it's a good opportunity. So going back to your channel, Couz's Corner,
Mhm.
um, going back to that, uh, ever since you started your channel, what have been like, if you could name just a couple, what have been some of the highlights of your time hosting Couz's Corner?
It's another good question. I think for me, the biggest highlight is just a community of people that I've been able to build, which is not something going into it, I had no idea really what I was getting into. Um, but you get viewers that want to come back show after show after show, comment on every video, watch every video. I know you, Stephen, you've been very loyal a viewer, and I appreciate that. But when you go on a live stream and there's a lot of back and forth in the chat. That's been very, very, very rewarding. I've had a chance to interview Ren Baker, the athletic director at West Virginia. That was pretty cool. Um, and I had I had a chance to interview a few players, which is neat too. And so, yeah, it's just a lot of cool things that I probably wouldn't have got to experience otherwise. It's cool. Once in a blue moon, I'm not a celebrity by any means, but once in a blue moon, I get recognized out in public by somebody, and that's pretty neat. Uh, so yeah, I mean, that's just, but at the end of the day, it's all just about having fun to getting to talk about my team and kind of promote not only West Virginia University and WVU football and WVU sports in general, but just the state of West Virginia. It gives me an opportunity to promote my state, an opportunity to promote, the passion and that I have for West Virginia. And that's really what I get out of it the most, honestly.
Yeah. So, uh, yeah, about West Virginia. Quite a few years ago, I traveled down to West Virginia just on a road trip. It was like a single day road trip. Uh, Actually made it to Huntington, West Virginia, which is where Marshall is. Visited their campus. Just by looking at West Virginia in general, the landscape, scenery, it's a beautiful place. It
It
really is.
absolutely is. Yeah, it is. It is a beautiful place. And, sometimes I take it for granted because I've lived here my whole life. But, when you really step back and look at it, it is a beautiful place. I travel a lot with my career and my full-time career. And I get to travel parts of the state that, I normally don't see. And I got to do that a couple weeks ago. And it was really cool to see some areas that I don't travel through very often. And, uh, lay your eyes on different mountains and different streams and different places. And it made me, I sit back and think, man, really is a beautiful state, makes you appreciate what you have. But yeah, it's a beautiful state. And I appreciate you for saying that, man. Look, there's some stigmas about West Virginia that are true, but there's also a lot that aren't true. And, I think the good outweighs the bad by far in this state.
Yeah, because basically, in general, the Appalachia region, because where I live is South Central Ohio, it's like the foothills of the Appalachia.
Mm.
So you and I both can recognize the area for what it is. It's a
Right.
beautiful area. So
It absolutely is. And there's a lot and awesome people. The people are fantastic. Uh, Most people in the area will do anything in the world for you to help you out in a time of need and are polite and kind and generous and some of the best people in the world, in my opinion.
yeah, so speaking of that, West Virginia, I asked this before on a previous episode, so I might as well ask you this. Morgantown, West Virginia, the culture for college sports. What is it generally like? Not just for game day, but just any other time.
Um, Morgantown is a typical college town. I mean, it's very busy during football and basketball season, but it's not a big city by any means. So it's small town America. You know what I mean? You've got a lot of small businesses, a lot of independent business owners. Everybody knows everybody. I mean, it's just that type of feel. And then on Saturdays in the fall, man, it becomes a pretty big happening place, But it's just like any other small town America city. Is if you go to any small town college town, it's going to be similar, except the campus is a lot more spread out in Morgantown, and there's obviously a lot of hills you have to climb. But yeah, it's just your typical college town, I would say.
Yeah. In Morgantown, West Virginia, speaking of road trips, that would definitely be like one place that I would like to visit one of these days for a road trip. I think it'd be pretty fun for me to do. So,
Yeah, come on over, man. I'm sure. I mean,
yeah,
Ohio will be traveling there in a couple of years, so it might be a good opportunity.
yeah, that would be. So, one more thing about YouTube, college football YouTube channels. Because occasionally, because I'm subscribed to like more than one channel.
Right.
I'm
I
also
was.
subscribed to the College Football Mafia
Mhm.
channel.
Right.
And I noticed that sometimes you jump in and just
Yeah.
collaborate with those guys. What is it like in general to have these collaborations when you can do a joint thing with other YouTube channels?
It's a lot of fun, and it's a lot less work. I can get on and have fun talking college football without all the editing and making thumbnails. And as you know, Stephen, there's a lot of work that goes into doing a YouTube video outside that people don't realize probably. But when you get on a show with somebody else, man, sometimes if it's, especially if I'm jumping on their show, I can just go on there and talk ball, man, and just, and it's really fun to do that. I don't get a chance to do it as often as I'd like, but yeah, collaborating is very fun. And again, I mentioned that community earlier. That's part of it. You build friendships with people through YouTube, and some of these people I've never even, most of these people I've never even met in person, but you still become friends with them and build a camaraderie with them and friendships, all through a platform that, I never even envisioned I'd ever be on. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. And just having the opportunity to do things like this, like what we're doing right now with this interview,
Mm-hmm.
um, it reassures me. It reassures me that whatever I'm doing, that I'm doing it the right way. So
Yeah,
it
absolutely.
just, yeah. And speaking of the college football mafia, some of those guys I would definitely like to have an interview with. So yeah, feel free to put in a good word for me
Will
with
do.
those guys, especially Nate Bomber Brown. So yeah.
Yep.
But
Will
anyway,
do.
yeah, I'd appreciate that. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so in closing here, because we got like about 7 minutes remaining here for this recording. Um, so what advice in general would you have uh for um for people that are just starting out on YouTube when they're trying to get something going for their YouTube channels, whether it is about college sports or anything
Mm-hmm.
else? What advice would you have for them?
Number one, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to hit record and do that first video. Once you do that first one, it gets easier after that. Just continue honing your craft because you'll get better with, your first video is not going to be a good video, I can tell you, but keep honing your craft, keep getting better, keep getting better. I mean, I still get better every day. At least I'm trying to, but, educate yourself. There are a lot of other YouTube channels who teach YouTube. That's what they do. They teach YouTube. There are books out there you can read. There are articles. Educate yourself as much as you can on the YouTube algorithm, making making videos, making thumbnails, making titles, how to keep people watching. I mean, you name it, right? Embrace your community because that's without that, it's not really worth it. I mean, you don't want to just talk to a screen. You're talking to people, right? So embrace your community and, uh, yeah, I mean that's the biggest advice I guess I would have. But just don't be afraid because you're going to screw up. You're going to feel silly at times, but over time it gets a lot easier and it gets a lot more fun.
Yeah. Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. Like you said earlier, it takes a lot of time. It takes quite a bit of work to put in when you're making YouTube videos. I would know this offhand just by from what I've done.
Mm-hmm.
So it's always a learning process for making YouTube videos.
Absolutely.
And for references, I always look to channels like yours and also others like Greg Flugar,
Yep.
another good example, Peek
Yep.
Around the Corner. That
Absolutely.
that that guy's amazing with what he does.
Mm-hmm.
So, I take bits and pieces of inspiration from these other channels, including yours, Couz, and I try to apply that to whatever I'm doing. So, yeah, I do have you to thank in part for
Well, I
this.
appreciate
So,
that. Yeah, and I mean, you've got to take bits and, obviously none of us are trying to steal anybody else's
no,
content,
no,
but you're getting ideas from it, right? And you're
right.
bouncing ideas off of each other sometimes. You're taking, oh, that looks like a good topic. Maybe I need to do that on my show. Then you can do the same. Two shows can do the same topic. You know what I mean? It doesn't, topics are not copywritten, right? You can still talk about it. Just put your own, do it. Be authentic is another thing I'd say. You have to be yourself because if you're not, they will see through it. Your audience is smart. They're not stupid, and they will see through it if you're not authentic. So be yourself. Don't be afraid to be yourself. Don't worry. You obviously can't worry about what people think because you are going to have some haters. That's part of the game. You got to ignore that stuff and just be yourself and do your best and it all work out and keep grinding. You got to keep grinding, obviously.
Keep grinding. Yep, just solid advice, man. So yeah, I think that will conclude our interview for Stephen Interviews You, episode 6. Justin Walker Coos, thank you so much, man, for being on here and being my special guest. I really appreciate it. We appreciate all the help that I get, man.
Absolutely. I appreciate you having me on and good luck to you. And if you ever need, any, I don't want to, I'm no expert by any means, but if my experience can help you at all, feel free to reach out and I'll do my best to help you.
Yeah. So, guys, in closing, I will attach links to Couz's Corner so you can check out his channel and subscribe to his channel. And if you like what you see here, click the notification bell and subscribe to STVCastle as well, because there will be more interviews along the way here. Thank you again, Couz, for everything that you've done on YouTube and to help me out. And we'll be back with another interview shortly. Take care, guys.